I'm ready for some different kind of inspiration. One that
What a
impacts my eyes, but without the tears.
what a well-rounded day we've had today, right? So cool. Our next artist and final artist for today, I'm so excited. Um, no stranger to any of you, I'm sure. I always say this. I could tell you how many, but I don't even know honestly how many awards this guy has won. Nahas, I mean, is only one of them. I know he has a secret trophy room somewhere because if I was him, I would.
Ooh.
But so talented, in everything. And what I love about our next guest is whether it's cutting, color, inspiration, team building, this guy has it all and is so well rounded. I look up to him very, very much, have for a long time, and have had the privilege of working with him, being on big shows with him. I'm really excited for what he's going to share with us today. A little bit of how his brain works and inspiration, color, and also cutting. Everyone's and how that can change a color. I hear him giggling in the green room, so I might as well just bring him out. Without further ado, the incredible Chrystopher Benson.
Hi. So
Hi.
good to see you guys. So good to see you guys. How are you? How are you? How are you?
Oh, we're good, Christopher. We're better now that you're here. How
Yeah,
are you?
exactly.
So sweet. I was watching. The show was fantastic. Philip did a fantastic job. And of course, I love Tabitha. That's like my sis and huge inspiration. So it was great watching, her and all that message. It was great.
You and Tabitha have
Excellent.
known each other for how long now? A long time.
Well, probably over 20 something years.
So Hannah just told
Wow.
us he has 6 Nahas, 5 for color. So we've got the guests. The guests are commenting in the
My
chat box. How many awards do you have?
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. How are you guys? I love that you guys are doing this. How are you two?
Oh wow, I don't. People don't. Well, we ask each other a lot. We definitely do check-ins with each other and with our team. But I'm good. I'll answer and then I'll let Sherry answer second. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm good. I'm always excited on Mondays. It's great to start Mondays off with this event and having people such as yourself. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your inspiration and education with everybody for Raise My Bar. It really,
So happy
for
to.
me, I'm always grateful. It starts my Monday off, even if I go into it feeling whatever I may be feeling, because it's a roller coaster. It always sets my pace, and so I'm super grateful for these Mondays, and I'm just excited and happy today. I don't know, Sherry, how are you? That's what I feel like saying. Sherry,
I
what do
love
you
that.
feel like saying for those of you?
Well, thank you, Alfredo. At first, I feel like saying it's like he caught you completely off guard there. So
I
I'm not.
know.
Yes,
I'm
which
not
is rare.
sure. We maybe I need to debrief with you later. Make sure you're okay. So it's making me a little nervous.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Well, Christopher, I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. I
Yeah.
mean, you and I have known each other in circles of the professional world for many years now. Not we haven't
Yeah.
spent a lot of intimate time together. That sounds weird, but we
Your
haven't
husband would
spent a
probably
lot
kill.
of time having deep conversations together. Sorry about
I
that.
knew what you meant, but I had to just be a smartass. I gotta do
Yeah,
this.
sorry.
No, I knew what you meant.
Erase
No,
that,
it was
erase
good.
that. But for me, my life's work, my mission in life is to help the hairdresser, to help everyone, quite frankly, but
Yeah.
specifically dedicated my life to the hairdresser. And so for
Yeah.
me, right now more than ever, I've gone around the world saying from stages that my job, my role, not only my job, but my passion is to help the hairdresser live best. And right now, more than
Hmm.
ever, is the opportunity to give my all to try to do that. And so, not sleeping a lot, but Friday I got a little bit of a lesson that was given to me whereby my coach said, I know this wise woman because I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm tired and, not physically tired, but mentally tired and blah,
Right.
blah. And he
Right.
goes, I know this woman. I can't remember, I'd like to credit her, but I asked her how she deals with jet lag. And she told me that it doesn't exist. She denies that it exists. And I'm the one that said it, right? So
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden I was like,
You're
Oh,
like, these are my own words coming back to
these
haunt
are
me.
my own words. And so my notes were stop effing telling yourself you're tired, right? And I swear ever
Right.
since then I've been like, woo, amazing. So it's these moments that we can connect and get out of our head and be inspired by someone else to remember the things that we've forgotten or learn new things is absolutely amazing. And so I'm
Yeah.
wonderful, but I'm even more excited to get into your head because that's what Alfredo said that's going to happen.
Scary place. Scary place.
That's
Exactly.
I think
And
we both were
I have to say
giggling
really
because I
quick,
was
I
like,
can
really,
vouch
everything?
for that. My
But
first trip.
you're so freaking talented, and I mean, you have created. I mean, again, I've seen your work for a long time, and you've created more recently, I would say, like in the last several years, this sort of signature that you
Mhm.
have, which is undeniably Chrystopher Benson. Like you see
Oh,
it and you're like,
yeah, I appreciate
that
that.
is
That means a lot. That means a
that
lot.
is
Yeah,
Christopher
it's a
Benson.
signature.
That is a Christopher Benson hair
Yeah.
color. And
Yes.
you're revered, in the industry. Many colorists that I know look up to you for that. And yes, it's won you awards, and it's also just I would say probably even more importantly, inspired so many people.
Mhm.
And I think the young and those youngins that are new in the industry and those that have been in a long time would really love to know. And I was so excited when Alfredo told me this, how do you even go about coming up with this? So we're excited. I'm excited.
Man,
Yes.
yeah, that's
Extremely.
a good question. It's a very good question. Um, no, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the very kind words. That means a lot to me. I have such a deep respect for both of you, and I think it's so interesting at this time and what's going on in the world, and it's just refreshing to see people where people care. So to be a part of that, it is first off, I want to say thank you to both of you, and of course, while it's not directly with our brands, obviously the brands are involved from us as people and who we stand with. So thank you to the brands as well, and also putting it out there. But I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate what we can do as a group and what we can do together. And so yeah, I know Sherry, you called out four as it truly would be. I brought five, so it's just
I was told
my
four. I
first.
was told
I'll be
four.
honest. I
I'm
was
not
I don't
tied to
know where four came
anything.
from because when I saw four, I panicked a little. I was like, where did she get four from? Where did she get four from?
Oh,
So,
I was told
um,
four. I'm sorry. Oh,
hey,
because I put
listen,
it wrong on
it's
the.
it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
But he's
We
got
have plenty
five, so
to
look at
we have
lucky
we have
us.
plenty to talk about. So
Lucky us.
it'll be good.
Under
So yeah,
promise,
so
over deliver, Christopher. Under
always
promise,
right.
over deliver every
Always.
time.
Lesson number one.
I love that. I love that. No, it's so true. So yeah, so I think what I'll do is just share a little insight, some technique, a little bit of like kind of the process. I think would be really, I think helpful. This is something I've been doing a little bit more of. Uh, the interesting thing is I think when you get at this level, you don't know what you have shared and haven't shared with people, and I think you take for granted like the little things that you do, um, because now it's interesting sharing some of these little things that I are super important to me, but I didn't think were going to be as important. I don't know why. I just sometimes you think you've shared these amazing things, and I think sometimes it's the little things that do so much. So let's start from the beginning. The one that I'm going to start with is actually from Naha this year, and why I'm going to start with this is because we can walk through a whole inspiration, and then I think what we should do is take it from that kind of aspect to more of a commercial aspect, because ultimately I think Naha is fantastic. It's our Oscars, it's our Grammys of the hair industry. However, I think from a commercial standpoint, how does that relate to all these amazing people watching around the world, right? And I think that that's just as important. So I think let's share some inspiration. We'll share some technique. Every one of these are based off of a similar technique. So we'll walk through 4 or 5 of these, and then we'll do a little cutting to kind of merge all that together. So the first one that I'm talking about is, does that sound good? First off, just put a little thumbs
Sounds
up in there.
amazing.
Sounds
Does that
great.
work? Does that work? All right. So this is the one that I get a ton of questions about. And strange enough is it's, for me, I love to make things look super complicated, but I want it to be really simple in its execution. So this is the one that I get hit up a lot. This is one of three of the pictures that won NAHA this year, and now they're using that for ads to promote some of the shows. This is where that originally started from, right? And so if we look at these triangles and the inspiration and what happens there, and then we go back and we look at that,
Nice.
you can start to see, right, where that starts to pull from. So a couple of things I pulled from this was the shapes, which you can see obviously a massive amount of triangles, and then some of the abstract tones, which I thought were super cool. So that's where the first one was. The second one, which kind of tied to it as well, this is on a street corner, and this is literally the corner here. So one graffiti on one side and one graffiti on the other, and this is in Madrid.
Yeah. Cool.
And this was on a trip. Like, this is when you get, like, this is when you're so blessed to travel. And we were going through there, and I ended up, like, one of the things for me I always look for is like art and street art, because they're almost fusing right now, right? They're almost becoming like, that is, I would kill for that to be like in my creative studio. Like that's epic. It's epic, right? So I think it's, how do we look at that? And so I was super inspired by both of those. And when you look at them, there's definitely a difference between them, but there is a commonality when you start to look at shape, tone, so forth. Right?
And look how well they go with Alfredo's shirt.
Oh my God, Alfie! Look, you could be in there. So what I did, I recreated the look, right? So here she is. So this is how simple this is. It's a triangle. It's literally a triangle, and inside of the triangle, what we did was we did everything in vertical, so you can see all the striations of what's happening. So I want you to think of just the sectioning as a triangle. From there, what we did, if you look at the tones, you can see what we started with on one side is our darker tones working into the reds. And so my foils would sit this way, this way, this way. And I would keep working around until I get to that purple, and then work back to the same thing on the other side. Everything else is the base tone. So really, this is kind of what I see where trends are going is yes, I think we're gonna have vivids and pastels and so forth, but I think it's gonna be focused areas, specific areas, and I think this is the part that I want the stylist to take is, it doesn't have to be complicated. I think in more so, where we're gonna start to see things go is simplified. Now, I know there's people that are going, Chris, what am I going to do with the rainbow on some of my clients? And I totally understand that. This is supposed to be inspiring. This is to make you start to think a little bit different and to push your thought process, okay? So from there, from a commercial idea, we take the same sectioning and we take that into more commercial, soft tones. So still the triangle, still the base, still focused in front, and it's still linear. What I mean by linear is you see the striations of what's happening with the color. It's not melted, right? It doesn't mean that you can't melt, and we're going to go into a melt in just a few, but I think the idea is keeping the same sectioning. So same exact thing. Look at the difference in the end result. And you can see the similarities. It's a matter of picking tones. So I think you can take and you can push progression as far as you want. And you can also bring, your tones and stuff closer together to have a lot more commercial viability and what works for your guest in your area. And I think that it's really, you guys, Sherry, Alfredo, I think the thing for me is it doesn't matter. Like, I live in Utah now, I can't do this because I'm in a small town. I don't it's a matter of thought process. And I think, Alfredo, you've proven that as well. You live in New York now, you were out in LA, and it really didn't matter where you're doing it from, you were still doing it.
It's true. I will agree.
Did we lose the connection to you guys?
I'm going to check in on the back end because I can't see that. And are we good? Yep, we're
there
here.
we go. I lost you for a quick
There
little second.
Hey, you did. Did I lose you?
Okay.
Okay. So so I think it's, I don't think it's a matter of having to live in a big city to accomplish what you want. I think it's a matter of having a thought process. And I love what Tabitha was saying is, what is your
Hmm.
passion? Find your passion. And it doesn't matter where you're doing your passion from. It's taking that passion and creating business out of it. And so for me, growing up in Salt Lake, it was all blondes, and in my clientele, that's what my business was I built my business on blondes. And then I built my business on color correction. And then I got bored. And so it was like, how do I start taking people into different identities with where they're at now, changing them, but not going so over the top that it freaks them out. I mean, Salt Lake is a super conservative area, but they like to color hair. And so it was finding that balance, right? And so I show you the extreme of it in the idea of Naha. So now let's take that same idea and let's go a little bit more commercial. So the next thing I want to show you is something that goes and lends itself a little more commercially viable. So tones, you can see I love a beautiful, this is what I want to be, right? Is by the ocean right now.
Right.
A little sunset over, right? You got to wish where you're at right now,
Yes.
Sherry. I mean, it's like, you got to
Yeah,
have some creative thinking.
that's
But the
right.
thing I pick up in this is the tones, right? So we're going to work off of a blonde. So I want you to think in the idea that blonde. And then the other thing is we want to work in some of these tones. Now, inspiration doesn't always have to sit perfectly in the horizontal. I like the striations when we turn it that way, because you can almost see what's happening with the colors in almost like what foil work would be. So I think inspiration, you take 10 hairdressers, you can take 10 different inspirations from it. But
Wait,
this is where
Christopher,
we ended
stop
up
for
going.
just a second. Can
Yeah,
you just go back
sure.
and show them? Because I think that was kind of an innovative thing to do, right? So you've taken a picture of a
Yes.
sunset and
Right. Okay.
you've printed it out and
Yeah.
then you turned it sideways so that
So
you
yeah,
can,
so I think perspective, right? Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's perspective, Sherry. And I love that you say that, because it is perspective. This is how we would always look at it. And this is how I would get like beautiful color melts and huge inspiration. And I do all the time. But then the other thing is if we start to turn it in a different capacity, I think then it starts striations of foils, different view, right? And I think so for me, print, inspiration. So that's where it usually starts for me, is inspiration, and then go to technique, and then go to doing it. So what I mean by that is then I would go to
Wait, I'm sorry. Come
like
back. Turn it all the way upside down for me.
you're so
You
cute.
know
I
what's
love
crazy is I saw like hair
She's like,
strands when you turned it to the side.
It's I love it. I love it.
I saw
Yeah,
the
because
right,
strands
then
of
that
yeah,
could be
hair.
even so I think it's it's so brilliant, right? And I don't know that we take everything we look outside, like if I look outside and I look at leaves, but if I take a picture
right.
and I start to move that picture and the perspective around, I could be inspired to do a completely different look. I think that is brilliant. Everybody
Yeah.
watching, take pictures, print them out, turn them all around.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, it's
Seriously.
yeah, no, I think it's so important. It's so important. And and again, I think it's going back a little bit to what Tabitha said, find things you're passionate about. For me, it's easier to drive from things that I identify with, am passionate about, love. I love Mother Nature. I love a beautiful sunset over the ocean. I love street art. I love art. So those are the things that I think that are easy for me to gravitate to.
Yes.
And I think that in your own world, wherever you're at, is find what that inspiration is for you. To Sherry's point, is it leaves? Is it fall colors? And I know fall colors are different throughout the nation, depending on where you're at. So I think that it can be so beautiful. It's just a matter of how does that resonate for your area, but then how does it translate back to business?
Yeah.
Ultimately, we need to learn so that we can earn, right? And I think it's really important is, yes, I think it's great everybody's spending all this time learning, but what are we going to go back with and earn with? And I think that as well. Don't just learn right now. Be ready to go back and earn and have that beautiful experience with your guest when you get back to the swamp.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So the next step, for me would be like, when I think of those tones, like it would be taking a picture, right? So I didn't have great pictures as a kid, so I would take like photocopies of cool pictures
That's
that I
cool.
loved. And then I started to lay color in the way I wanted to see it happen, and then I would break that down into technique. So let's take this idea. I know this ends with yellow, so can you guys see there?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
what I would do is I would start to put I would do it the same way as the strand, so it sits the same way. So it's like, where do I want that influence? And when I think of that lightest and brightest, I'm going to take that to the tips. And then what I'm going to do is share with you the technique. So we're going to work off of a blonde. So this is really like, how do we enhance beautiful color work on a blonde and still keeping all that base blonde? So I would take a small triangle and influence a big area, but it doesn't have to be huge commitment because we're only taking small bits of triangle. And then what I would do is add some of this pink. So we work almost from a fuchsia, softest pink into an orangey into the yellow. Can you guys see that? Does it look grainy?
Yeah. No, it looks all right. I can understand the concept. So would
And
you
then
say,
and then blonde, right? Everywhere else.
yeah. And would you,
So
so you would take this, did you draw that originally, the hair?
so that's actually a picture of that's one of my Nahas this year that my team
Yep.
turned into sketches for me so I could take this and start showing this stuff. So they made a color book. How cool is this? They made a color book for me and I wouldn't use it because I thought it was so cool. I'm like, I'm not coloring this. I loved it. But I said, why don't we take this and make this so that there's sheets that I can share with other people. So like when I'm in classes, we can start to, shade color based on the cuts and stuff. Because to me, it should be a package, right? I mean, whether you're working with a colorist or you're working with a cutter, I think it's about how do we resonate the end result together. So I want you to think about the rest of this in blonde. So here was the idea when we see that. A soft commercial, beautiful, beautiful tones,
Mm-hmm.
right? All
Yeah.
on blonde. And the
Beautiful.
triangle's really, it's the idea is the triangle is just really concentrated up front. And this is how I started to change my guess was a few foils back to back. Then it turned into a triangle shape, similar like what this is. And then it got a little broader until we end up doing full color. But I think it's how you get it there. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Okay. So then we go to the
So
next. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
two things. First, somebody would like a Christopher Benson coloring book. So, as part of your next production of items, I think that needs to be in it.
I love that. I love that idea.
I know, right? Me too. And then for those that don't have it or while they're awaiting the Christopher Benson coloring book, what might you, because I love this because you can take essentially that same look and use your colored pencils just to play around, right? And so
honestly, Sherry, I just went and got like, so this is how I would equate it back to a client is I wanted to show my guests shapes and looks with color that before maybe they would be into it. And so what I would do was go to the grocery store and get some of the magazines in the shapes and stuff, short haircuts, long haircuts, whatever the magazines were, and just started taking photocopies. And then exactly what you're saying with colored pencils, would just color them in, and then I would present it as part of the consultation. Obviously, these are guests that I would work with and know, and so then I think a couple of things. They feel like you're really thinking about them and taking care of them, which you are. And then I think the other part is you're doing things different and giving them something that's a point of difference that's thought out. And I don't think that it has to be a massive, long process. I think it's getting into the habit and then being able to jump off of that consistently. And so these are just things for me that have worked really well. And I think sharing that stuff, man, if you can make it easier for somebody else, that's the whole reason we do this. And it's the whole reason the mentors and people before me shared the things with me and cared enough to stop my day and say, hey, maybe try it this way. And so, I want to be able to pass that on. And if we can save people time and money and energy that they can create differently with, let's do that and make it great for everyone.
So I have a request. You can tell me
All right.
no, but could you then create
Or
a
can you?
highlight on your Instagram page that
A highlight.
has, like, well, you have to
Mhm.
put it in story. A highlight, Christopher.
I didn't know if you wanted me to do like a highlight color.
No, oh, I'm sorry. No, I want you to create
You mean
a
a
That was the
story
highlight. You know the
highlight?
little.
that was
Do you
the
want me to show
colorist
you
in me
what
right
it
there,
is?
Sherry.
Whereby you put. Let's start small, right? So you're
Okay.
gonna do a digital Christopher Benson hair coloring look, and you can put three of your looks.
Should I be taking notes about it?
Oh no, Alfredo's gonna follow up with it. So,
Yeah.
I love
three
it.
of your coloring, what you just showed us, into
Yeah.
this highlight, and then
Okay.
everyone on here and everyone in the world can go there and they can take a screenshot of the
Yeah.
picture
I love
and then
that.
print it themselves and start to
Totally.
play around. Be
I love that.
inspired by
Love
Christopher
that idea.
Benson.
You're so sweet. No,
So
I love that. I love that. No, I will happily do that. I will happily do that. I'm sure my team's watching, and they'll probably have it up before I get off of here. That's how good they are. But no, I
fabulous.
appreciate that. I think that's a great idea. So I think that's on the soft end, and so the direction, because then I think as we move from that idea, that would be kind of softest influence. And again, I think it's tone. And then, it's like, how do we go into something that becomes a little bit more progressive, a little bit bolder
Ooh.
in
Love that.
saturation, right? And so for me, yes, it's still blonde because we get that sand, but then I think there's a lot more of a color pop when I
Yeah.
see this. So picking up everything but the blues, we'll look at that, and a little stronger on the shape. So
Wow.
lots of linear color, but and I say linear, but it really is all done on a melt. So it works from the yellow on top, opposite the one I just showed you, and works into the fuchsia, or the soft pink, the flamingo fuchsia bubblegum, and then into the soft orange, the orange cut down just a bit. So I think, you can have it really super strong and you can have it really, really soft. I think also how we cut things, something strong makes you really see the color, strong fringes, right? You can see that color so much more. But
Yeah.
the integration for me is like the color, the cut, everything together, how it works in harmony. I think that's really, really important. I think if you're going to influence color, bold color, it still has to have beautiful sophistication. I still want it to look like technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Expensive, not just something, just, what, that's the hot thing to do, so let's just add color. I want them to think that it's really thought out for
Yeah.
them. So strategy for color, I think, is super, super, super important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me show you one last one.
And Christopher, that was based on a triangle
Here is
as
the
well?
Yeah. Same exact thing.
Wow.
It's just gotten a little wider. So yeah. So let's go back. So same thing. If you look top,
Yeah.
fine, to the width on the side,
Yeah.
and the width on the side. So yeah, and then this is how it cascades.
Nice.
So I start a lot with like the points at the top because it influences a lot easier up top, and then you can get a lot of color working down off of that shape. And the other thing for me is, too many times as a young colorist, I would get that last hair left, and you're going, oh my God, what color is that supposed to be? And then you pray, and then, you pray, and then it worked. And that was too many times of that. So for me, what I like to do is use shapes, just to strategize. And even, if you're balayaging, I still would have some sectioning so that my shapes, I knew what was happening with those. So really for me, it's just a map, it's a strategy. And then whatever you're doing inside of that, a melt, a fusion of colors or linear colors, it's entirely up to you. But I think it's just taking that and figuring, like now we've seen 4 different techniques from just the triangle, all look different, right? So there's one more. In true Benson fashion, you knew I would give you something a little edge. So the thing I find with light as well is morning It's a lot more pastel. In the evening, it gets a lot more saturated. So we wanted to
Mm,
go with something that's a little more saturated. Still in the right. So something strong. You got it there. So she's definitely got a strong shape. And as we
yeah.
work forward, we still have some of that cascades, but look how
Oh, wow.
strong. And
Yeah.
then also where
Oh,
we part, where we part.
Right.
So even taking that same idea,
Oh,
so good.
right? So I don't think it has to be everything. I mean, that's literally the same thing. Sure, is just a small triangle. It sits a little bit more to the side,
hmm.
and then it's really where do you part it. But that gives you a pretty good indication of how
Amazing.
quickly just picking tones can change. And and again, I mean, it doesn't have to be that contrast.
Yeah.
It's and
Beautiful.
if we want it less contrast, bring our tones close together.
Right.
But I think that's really the idea is how do we take different inspirations like that. What do you guys think? Any questions?
What
Amazing.
Yeah.
amazing. What I love
Amazing.
about that last one for the client is she can change her hair color just by parting her hair. Like every day, she can have a new hair color. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. I love seeing the creative process for you and
Yes.
how you very easily well, first you play around with it with your, coloring, and then
Hmm.
you break it down into a very digestible way to color the hair, because I've seen, some of this more bold coloring, if you will, done by some of our stylists out there, and it's like, who has time to do all that? Like, I don't, that would take forever. Whereas that
Right.
seems much more, again, digestible and, I don't want to say simple, but it's simplified in its approach, and it makes it feel like it's achievable. And I
Right.
really appreciate that. I do want to know where you took all
No,
of the
I
sunset
appreciate you
pictures.
saying it.
You know what I love about it, not to, but is also it has intention to it. Like it has a
Yeah.
very distinctive intention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know me, Alfie. Very
Yeah.
little do I do without intention.
Exactly.
Yes. And we
Very little
love
do I
it.
do without intention. But no, I appreciate that, and I think that it's where along. I think a couple things I would say to that is where along the way you stop for your specific guest progression, right? I think I love what you say, Sherry. For me, I love to find something simple and play with it a bunch of different ways so that I find the ins and outs and I know what I'm capable of doing with it and then move on to something else. So I think that's something I would pass on to people as well, that don't just try something once. I think you need to try it a bunch of different ways. Because what it does is no different than setting goals. It builds confidence. And when you are confident about something, I'll go into the salon and talk about it completely different than if I'm not. And I think that, we as hairdressers will talk people out of hair color if we're scared of it. And we'll talk people into it if we're
Yeah.
good with it, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it myself. You don't want to get into some long nightmare process and you're like, no, 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 I don't think you're going to be great with that. I mean, we are
Right.
very convicted in how we talk to people and how we do things. And I think that that's really important is confidence in how we go back with our guests and taking different techniques. But again, I think it's focus color. I think we're always going to have highlights. I think we're always going to have double process. I
Yeah.
think we're always going to have those things. There's no question.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, I think, from a trend perspective, is we definitely are going to see more focused areas where it is not everything necessarily vivid on the head. It's not to say
Yeah.
there's not going to be some of that, but I just think as a whole, and what most people will be taking and trending, and where we really see forecasts going is focused, strategized, thought out, and
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful color. Regardless of what the tone is, if it's a blonde, make
Well,
it
Libations House
the
of
best.
Styles said you inspired them to finally enter Naha this year. So,
Aw.
I love that. I love that. There you go. See,
amazing.
yeah, no, I think that's that's the ultimate, right? I mean, you can go win And I love that you said that earlier too, Sherry. Like the awards are fantastic, and I have definitely been hugely blessed with my team to win many, many, many awards. The bigger thing for me is when you can watch somebody just like that and have them take and do something um, that you put forth, and they go and take and do something with it for themselves. I think is the ultimate goal in why we do what we do.
Exactly.
No different than a Nicholas French for me, showing me, what Naha was in the ropes. And um, the night he won his first one, I was there with him, and he just looked at me. He's like, "You bit the bug," and I mean, bit the bug was an understatement, Nikki.
Right.
There was like a slight fatal attraction with it. I
Exactly.
mean,
Amazing.
if hair was a drug, that would be my that would be my drug.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Well, that shows, Christopher. That
Yes, it
shows.
does.
So I want to know, where are all the pictures? Where were you when you took all the sunset and sunrise pictures?
I didn't honestly. I went and Googled them. Honestly,
Oh,
I didn't take. I
really?
know those ones I didn't take. The graffiti ones I did take, but these I didn't take. I went and strategized with the looks I wanted to do, and went and pulled them. So I think
Great.
which I think is great because I know a lot of times when people see what we do inspiration, they always equate like, oh my God, he was there and he took those, and I was right. But I think the other thing is you can go on Google and be just as inspired by the things that you love and what things work for you and what things are exciting to you, and then I think build that into your repertoire of what you do. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, I mean, Google's the greatest thing ever because you can.
Well,
It's
it can
scary.
be and it
It's
can't
scary.
be.
Well,
It
yeah, I was
depends
gonna
on
say
what you're
it's scary.
Googling.
Exactly, exactly. I was gonna say it's scary sometimes what you can find, but on a positive, you can definitely find amazingly cool inspiration pictures, and you should. And I think that don't limit it to just what you're surrounding yourself with in your house. Like you have a great time to explore right now, and the other thing, I think that's super important is there's a lot of museums that will walk you through virtually right now that are
Ooh.
really interesting. That I would definitely encourage people to check out because you know it's a different world and it's going to be a different world, and I think there's going to be so much virtual, right? I think it's not going to replace what we do in person, and we will get back to that. And I think that we will have times where we come together and do things again. But I think that the world as a whole is definitely going to do a lot more virtual, like what we're doing right now. And I think
Yeah.
that that's not just in our world. And so, what I would really say to people is don't limit yourself to just our world. Go explore what else is out there, museums, and see, what you can see that inspires you. What is it that inspires you? I mean, I know what inspires me, and that's why it's really super easy for me to pick up and drive on things. But I think each person needs to find that for themselves. And the thing I would really stress today is take this stuff, use it, make it yours, but just do that, make it yours, however that is, and make it your spin. And with any technique, I think pick it up, use it, but make it yours. And that's the uniqueness we each have that we all bring to the table. Nobody else can be you. Nobody else can be
Nope.
you. And I think
Yep.
we need to embrace that uniqueness and learn from each other and share with each other. But be you and be valued and own that space, man. There's no better time than now that we should be owning that space humbly,
Yep.
humbly, but we should be owning that space.
Christopher, if you're
True.
if you're new, let's say, or maybe you've been somebody who's really just catered to the clients, whatever they, really just whatever they ask for, you do, whatever it may be, and maybe they don't really know yet what inspires them. It's a
Mhm.
bit of a deep conversation. How does
No, it
somebody
is.
go
It is.
about
But yeah, no, it is.
finding
It
out
is a
what
deep
inspires
conversation.
them? Yeah.
No, it is a deep conversation, and I think, and I love that you asked that because honestly, I didn't really ever feel, and I think people should know this as well. I never felt like an artist or artistic or anything until I got into the hair industry. So, which is really crazy because now in the curriculum and the way I put things together and the artistic stuff that we do to visually show is so artistic, and I just never looked at myself like that, or that approach. So it's built a huge amount of confidence for me in just what we explore creatively to share with other people. So I think you have to spend the time to find what your creativity is and what things inspire you. We've all had that feeling when you look at a picture and you're like, wow, that just like does something for me. What does it do? What is the tones? What is the texture? What are the shapes? What is it that draws you to that? And then I think then from there start honing that. Um, I think it'd be the more simple things can be, and this is just for me. I've always had crazy experiences in life, but one of my teaching experiences was doing this super amazing hair color, got done off stage, and somebody's like, "Well, how did you do that?" And I couldn't explain it because it was like that freedom, creative, just in the moment color, right? Um, when you stand on a stage and you teach, I think there's a huge responsibility of what's coming out of your mouth and how it's
Mm.
coming out of your mouth and how you are affecting other people in this world. And so, with that responsibility, for me, I really went back to the drawing board, if you will, and simplified, not changed the quality, but simplified the execution in the way I colored so that from a stage, I could make it easily explainable color wise, even if I'm cutting hair. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the other thing was because I'm a cutter, I didn't necessarily want to stand there and paint hair color because sometimes it can be really exciting. Sometimes it can be like watching paint dry. I mean, let's be honest.
Literally.
Unless you're
Truth.
Justin Isaac, and then it's
Yeah.
really entertaining as well to watch.
Yeah. Oh my
I
gosh.
love you, Isaac.
Somebody would
No, but
like to know some tips on how to get into Naha.
totally. Uh, I think the thing is figure out the category you want to go in,
Hmm.
study what has been successful, and then practice. I think the other thing that I hear so much, and I chuckle a little, is I get the call. Uh, I get probably DM'd and called weekly, multiple times about Naha. And what just that? What are the tips and what are the 5 steps to win Naha?
Right.
Right.
If I knew that,
Five
I
easy
mean, let me
steps
tell
to
you,
win
yeah, I
Naha,
would have
right?
sold this. I would have sold this.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but I think the thing is most people see Naha and a lot of them haven't really shot before. And I think you're super crazy ambitious to go from, well, I haven't really done a lot of photo shoots, but now I'm going to go shoot and I'm going to go try and create for Naha. I think it's finding your legs and getting comfortable and finding a team that you can really create with and grow with. And then I think it's like have that goal in the back of your mind, always like, here's the long term or the medium, goal. But I think that the biggest thing I hear is, and I ask them, like, how many shoots are you doing a year? Well, I haven't never shot. Like, I love the ambition. I love the
Right.
ambition, but that's not reality. That's
Yeah.
not reality. Like you're not. And then what I don't want you to do is go and experience that, and then you hate Naha. You hate the experience because you weren't prepared. And so I try and be really honest with people. I think you need to practice. I think you need to
Yeah.
practice your looks. I think you need to get a team around you. I think you need to try and not do everything uh, all yourself. I know a lot of us as hairdressers are like, well, I want to do the makeup, I want to do the hair, I want to do the wardrobe. Some people take a picture too. I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot to do. So
Yeah.
then you go, I can put so much energy into one spot at one time. If I have to do all those things, how creative on the day of the project am I going to be? And so I think it's finding that balance of people that you trust, working with people that you can have around you, not necessarily do the work, but help facilitate it moving forward together. And I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think other people learn along the way. I know, like with my team, that's how we, like Corey Hoffman, I was so proud of her this last year, got in for styling and finishing
Yes.
for Naha. That girl has been at so many shoots helping me for so many years that I just finally pushed her out of the nest and said, it's time, Corey. Like, you have been a part of so many finals and so many wins in just being there with me. You need to have this experience. And so it was so gratifying to see her go out and, step out of the nest, so to speak, because I knew
Yeah.
what she was capable of.
Yeah.
But you got to know that for yourself. And so to see her know that for herself was amazing.
That's
Amazing.
amazing. So we've got another. I would like for you to answer this. I could answer it as my perspective from a judge, but I would like for you to answer it. But before we do that, I would also like to let
Okay.
you know that Hair CBC says that the coloring page is live on C
Oh,
Benson
there you go.
on Insta stories. So
Do you see how quick my team works? Do you see
Like,
that?
Yeah.
That's gangster.
So
Yeah,
the coloring book is
that's
already live on Chrystopher Benson's page. And please, everybody, go there. So this next question is, what gives a collection for Naha cohesiveness?
Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh, that's a really interesting.
Really good one.
So I think it could be a few things. So, if you look at like the ones this year, for me, let me see. For me this year, it was really the wardrobe, right? Is what tied a lot of that together. It was
Mhm.
super bold. It was really edgy. There was definitely elements of black and white, but there was elements of really strong pops of color, and it was called pop. So that for me is what tied it together. The hair could tie it together. The background could tie it together. I think that if everything, and this is something that I've had to learn the hard way, I think if everything across the board is matchy, 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 it's one too many matchies.
Yeah, I
I
think I
think you
think
need,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, as a prior judge, what I would say to anyone watching is that if you had 100 photos, laid out on a table, could you pick out the three or five,
Exactly,
whatever, that
exactly,
belong
exactly.
together? And
Yes,
if you
yes,
can,
that's a
then they're
great point.
cohesive. So they have to look like they
Yeah, is it
belong
the
together.
tone of, yeah, is it the tone of background? Is it,
Yeah,
is it they're all, one color of background? Is it they're all different colors of background? I just think that it's a great question, but I think it's about strategizing.
Mm-hmm.
Know what your end goal is, know what you want to see in the end, and then also I think start working back from that of how much work is that going to be? How do I go about this? And put the work in. Like, this stuff doesn't just happen overnight, and I think that's a lot of the other thing is people think, hey, I'm going to do, three models, and you know what, and sometimes that happens, and that's amazing if it does. Most of the time that's not reality. It's thought out, it's executed, it's planning, it's practice. And I'll say it again, practice. I know that's a tough word sometimes that not a lot of us want to hear, but if you think for 2 seconds what I've been doing when this quarantine's been on, let me tell you, the
right.
practice that's
Yeah,
been
Right.
going on, right?
yeah.
And so it's, and I've won many awards, but it's not about the awards. It's about me getting better at different things. And I think that's what we all need to do is just look and go, what am I great at? Let's celebrate that. Let's anchor that. And then what things do I need to elevate? What do I need to raise my bar? Right? What do I
Yeah.
need to seriously? Because I think it's named
Love it.
that for multiple reasons. But you have to look at it for yourself and go, I need to put the work in because I care enough and I want it bad enough, and there's nothing that's going to stop me. Right?
Aw. At wise, wise words, my friend. Wise words.
Yes.
It's
There
it's my
is
glasses today, Sherry. It's my glasses that make me so wise today.
I don't know. So, for those that are watching that aren't from the Americas, NAHA stands for the North American Hairdressers Awards. It's like the Oscars for hairstylists here in the United States, including Canada. And I would say that all of the tips and advice that Christopher is giving you as it relates to entering that contest apply to all contests. It's
Yes.
all about
Around the world.
finding out what you're passionate about, looking at inspiration, breaking that down, practicing, 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 and not
Yeah.
trying to do it all yourself.
No, I think, listen, you summed it all up. I love that. It's so true. It's so true. It's so
That's
true.
usually my job. That's my job. Somebody would like to know if you're creating on, I think it's Niagara Falls. Are you creating any inspiration from Niagara Falls?
No, but I really would love to go see Niagara Falls in
Yeah, me
person. I think
too.
it's I've
I've never been.
never gone there. I've never
Group
gone. Maybe we
trip.
should go when I'll come out. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
we'll
do
go on
a
a road
road
trip.
trip.
I think, again, I think there's so many different places, and a lot of people ask me why to live in Utah. Utah is stunningly, stunningly beautiful in its outdoors, and so that is something I grew up with, and that's something that I've always been drawn to. So again, I think that it's finding what it is in your area. Niagara Falls, I think, is an incredibly beautiful place, and I would love to see it in person. I haven't ever done any inspiration from it, but I'm always open for inspiration, and I love the suggestion.
Excellent. Well, I think other people want to go on a CBC road trip, so they seem excited
Retreat.
by it, which
CBC
is
Let's do
retreat.
great.
it.
It
Let's do
could
it.
be a thing. You could have like a
That could
little,
be amazing.
they do artist oh gosh, retreats all the time. This could be
Yeah,
your artist retreat, right? You could get there, you
I
could
would love
color
that.
at night. You could have I don't know.
That'd be amazing.
We could
No, it
work
was
on
Sarah,
it.
you put it all
it
together,
was
and I'll
so
be
cool
looking
because
All
forward to
right.
it.
All
I've
right. I
always
see
been
how this
so
is.
yeah, I've always been so into like what inspires you. But today, like I learned something new from you because we've been through that. You and I were on stage once, and you were like, send me pictures of what inspires you, and you were sending me pictures of like what you were using for the particular color that we were doing. But today, when you did that, it was, I know for Sherry too, it was such an aha moment for me when you turned
Thank you.
the picture and like look at it from a different perspective. And then the other part for me was like the mentorship. I love your mentorship, like talking about Corey and the team and like you just being so good because I know so many, they're all so incredible and they do like look at that, like they have the coloring book up, like they were probably like texting, like get the coloring book up, like upload it.
Yeah.
like like that and it's so inspiring.
Like
It
they were
really
threatened,
is.
right? I was like,
Right. Yeah, their
No.
next thing is never go on with Sherry again. She'll make us do something right away.
No, it's good. No, but I think this goes to I think this is a perfect point, right? I didn't know they were on there because I can't see any of the comments, but I had a really good feeling that they would be there, and I knew if they were hearing this, they would be all over it because
Yeah.
those are the kind of people that I surround myself with,
Yeah.
that they would want this for the artist as well. And so that's why I was like, there's no doubt in my mind if they're sitting there listening to this, that they're already all over it.
Yes.
Yep.
But I think that's for all of us, right? Whatever job you're doing, surround yourself with amazing people that you can jump with,
That's
and like,
right.
let's go make this industry better, because that's what it's about. It's not about us individually. We're going to go so much further together as a group and as a team, and as an industry. And I think that if we can support each other in that and make it better because we make a conscious decision to make it better, we should do that.
That's
Love
right.
it.
I completely agree. Christopher, it's been so amazing having you and just your getting into your mind. It wasn't scary at all, actually. I
love
felt
it.
very warm and cozy in there.
It did.
So.
It did. Stay a while.
So thank you for all of that. Again, for everybody that's watching, continue to go to Christopher Benson's page. Learn from him. He is super creative, has gone through the journey of not knowing where he wanted to land as it relates to creativity, has done the work to get there, and will continue to inspire you every single day. Also, don't forget to not only go and get your coloring book pages, but share them with as many people as possible, as well as the tips and tricks. You can send them back here to RMB, the R&B channel on YouTube, to be able to see Christopher so he can explain exactly what he does with the coloring books. Somebody has them printed already. So there's that.
Yes.
This is happening
Oh my God.
fast, Christopher.
Wow, Sherry, look what you started. Look what you started.
You said you never
So
know
good.
where inspiration
I
is
love
going
it.
to come from. So
I
inspiration
love
for
it.
a new CBC tool in
No, you
your
inspired me today. You inspired me today to put that up there. I don't know why we haven't put it up there again. And I think this is what the industry is about. Like, your suggestion of that, I think, is going to be amazing for other people. And if we can do that, Awesome. So thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's Alfredo's pleasure having
Yes.
you. And thank you. Stay safe, stay well, and we can't wait for our Niagara Falls road trip
Yes.
together.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much,
You guys take
Chris.
care. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Thank you,
guys.
Christopher. We
Christopher.
love you.
Take care. Love you back. Take care, guys. Take care.
Bye.
That was amazing.